Good morning, guys. Marini here with another algebra video. Today's lesson is for Tuesday, April 14th. You can find this in the quadratics folder. Today we're going to talk about how to find the axis of symmetry and the vertex algebraically. For the sake of saving time, I already graphed do now questions number 1 and number 2. You don't need to watch me do that. You go to GeoGebra, type in the equation, make a table, go from -10 to 10, and it gives you these points. So for question number 1, it says, what is the equation for the axis of symmetry? The axis of symmetry, again, you just cut it in half, draw a line right down the center. And this line has an equation. It always starts off as x equals. So this equation is going to be x equals, and then look for what number it's going through the middle at. Again, right here in the middle, this is 0. So this would be -1. X equals -1 is the axis of symmetry. And now it says, where's the vertex? The vertex is, in this example, all the way at the top of the curve, and that is the coordinate -1, 8. What are the roots? You look at the x-axis. Those are the x-intercepts. There's one over here, and there's one over here. So the roots are at -3 and +1. What is the y-intercept? That's where it's crossing the y-axis. That is over there at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that is the coordinate 0, 6. And is the vertex a maximum or a minimum point? Well, since it's at the very top of the curve, we say that that is a maximum point. Now for number 2, we'll start over again. What's the axis of symmetry for this one? Well, the middle of this graph is actually over here. So this would be the equation x equals 1. And the vertex is down there at 1, -9. The roots are where it crosses the x-axis, and I'm looking right over here and right over there. So that would be -2 and +4. The y-intercept is that point there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's at -8. So that would be the coordinate 0, -8. And since this vertex is at the bottom of the curve, we say that that is a minimum point. So that's actually kind of a review of what we did last week on Wednesday. Those are called the characteristics of quadratics. You can find the axis of symmetry, you can find the vertex, you can find the roots, you can find the y-intercept, and you can tell whether or not it has a maximum or a minimum. But now I'm going to take the graphs away, and we're going to answer those same questions using algebra instead. So here is the first example. Y equals x squared minus 2x minus 8. Now, if you're saying that might look familiar to you, it should, because that's actually the second do now question that we did. We already graphed this and saw that the axis of symmetry is x equals 1, the vertex is at 1, -9, so on and so forth. But how would you figure that out if you didn't have the graph to look at? You would use algebra. There is a formula that will help you get the axis of symmetry, and you always want to find the axis of symmetry first. So the axis of symmetry, you can find it if you're not looking at a graph and you can't find the middle, using this formula. X equals -b over 2 times a. So you might be saying to yourself, well, where do the a and the b come from? If you remember, standard form of a quadratic equation is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. So the a and the b come from the equation. A is what's in front of the x squared, and b is what's in front of the x. So I'm looking here at this equation, and I want to find out what's a and what's b. A is what's in front of x squared, and then when I look at this equation, there's really a 1 in front of it, so a is 1. And b is going to be what's in front of the x, which is -2. So a is 1 and b is -2. So to find the axis of symmetry, you would write down x equals -b over 2a. And what I like to do is put parentheses. So -b over 2a. And now put the numbers in. So on top, you're going to put the b. So it's negative, and then b is negative 2. 2a, a is 1. So now this simplifies. Negative 2 would be positive 2. And 2 times 1 is 2. And 2 divided by 2 is 1. So the axis of symmetry is x equals 1. And that's what we got up here when we did it graphically. Now, how would you find the vertex? Well, the vertex is this coordinate at the very bottom, do here in purple, at the very bottom of the graph. It's a coordinate. So that means it has an x and it has a y. X, y. And what's cool is that the x comes from the axis of symmetry. So since you already know that the axis of symmetry is x equals 1 over here, you're going to take that and you're going to put 1 in the x, and then the y value, well, right now, I don't know what it is. So how would I find out y? Well, that's actually kind of easy to do, because the equation that I gave you is y equals x squared minus 2x minus 8. So write the equation down again. Y equals x squared minus 2x minus 8. That was the quadratic equation that we were interested in finding the axis of symmetry for and the vertex. The axis of symmetry, we used this formula here and got x equals 1. So now to get the vertex, it's going to be 1 comma some number for y. And the y value is the number that you're going to get once you sub in 1 for x. So this would be y equals 1 squared minus 2 times 1 minus 8. Notice how I put parentheses around the 1. You always want to make sure you do that. You can put that in GeoGebra. You can use a calculator, whatever you want to get. This simplifies to be 1 minus 2 minus 8. And that comes out to be negative 9. So now this negative 9 goes right there. And so the final answer for the vertex is 1, negative 9. And if you notice, that's what we already knew. We got that over here when we did it graphically. The last thing is that a maximum or a minimum? Well, if you're looking at the graph, you can tell, okay, it looks like a U, so that means that vertex is at the bottom. Or if you're looking at number 1 over here, it's all the way at the top, so that is a maximum. Well, what if you're not looking at the graph? You can tell if it's a maximum or a minimum by looking at the equation. If your equation looks something like y equals x squared plus blah, 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 you know that the graph's going to look like a U, and so it's going to have a minimum. But if the equation starts off with y equals, negative x squared, and there's a negative in front of the x squared, then it's going to be upside down, and the vertex is going to be at the top, which would make it a maximum. So for this example, our equation was y equals x squared minus 2x minus 8. And that doesn't say negative x squared, which means it's going to look like this one, and it's going to have a minimum value. So that's how you find the axis of symmetry, the vertex, and if it's a maximum or a minimum algebraically. I'm going to put this up on YouTube and send this out to you guys. I know it's a little complicated, it's a little confusing, so come into my Google Meet at 12 o'clock, and I will help you if you guys have any questions. All right, have a good one.